Hey my dudes, welcome back to Fairwinds RV. My name is still Jeremy and
I'm still Candace.
so we just want to take a few minutes to give you guys an update on our summer plans. We're doing a national park tour this summer, which is going to include 10 national parks in total. We've already done 3 of them, so we just wanted to update you on that a little bit and then stick around after that because we've got a couple of pieces coming at you. One is going to be the first in a 3-part series of RV must-have equipment, meaning the things that you really need to have, the things that you must have in order to get out and get camping after you buy that first RV. So the first part of it's going to be electrical, then we're going to do a later video on freshwater items that you need, and then we're going to do one on septic. So we're going to talk today a little bit about the electrical part, and then after that we've got a series we're calling
What's that smell?
That's right. What is that smell? I'm not going to give it away, so just make sure you stay tuned for those 2 pieces.
Our very first national park this year is Big Bend National Park down in Texas, where we hiked the Santa Elena Canyon and which bordered the Rio Grande River. Then the next day we went and did the Windows Trail, which ended in this spectacular, amazing view. So the Windows Trail has you hiking through this canyon, which is made as the water rushes off the mountain, and it ends at this gorgeous overlook, which is literally where the water rushes over. It's the pour-off point. And so you're kind of in between these 2 canyon walls, and you can get almost to the edge, not quite to the edge because it's super, super slick there at that very edge, and you definitely don't want to go all the way over.
Yeah, when we were there, there was no water coming down. I guess dry season or whatever. I don't know. I don't know when this thing actually, really flows down, but we were able to hike the whole thing. There's no water in it right now. But yeah, at the end, it was a very spectacular view and a little bit nauseating for me.
Yeah, Jeremy's a little afraid of me getting too close.
Yeah.
So just a few short miles away from our campground, we had the Terlingua Ghost Town. So we decided to go check it out. There were some old, ancient, mostly crumbling buildings, but there was also the trading post, the Starlight Theater, the old jail, and a really cool cemetery. So the oldest graves in the cemetery were from, oh my gosh, probably the 1800s. There were some newer graves because people who live in the town are still allowed to be buried there. And each of the graves was unique in how it was decorated. There were a lot of beer bottles.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of current decoration going on. I think people come by having a beer, maybe pour one for their homie, and then they just set it on the gravestones or the grave itself. It's kind of interesting. There's even money. People tossing money on it, so I'm not sure what the purpose of those were, but it was pretty
money,
neat.
Candles, and there were even, as you walk in through this kind of arched entryway, there were 2 almost like shrines that were just filled with this random assortment of stuff.
The Starlight Theater and the cantina next to it. So the Starlight Theater is not actually a theater, it's a restaurant, a really good restaurant, but a little, I guess, word of the wise there, if you're ever going to go here, you need to get to the restaurant early. They don't even open until 5, and right around 4 o'clock is when the line starts to form because I guess everybody knows about it. Everybody knew about it except us. We just got lucky to be there early. So show up early, maybe around 4 o'clock. Right next door, there's a little cantina. You can get yourself a beer or a margarita. We had some prickly pear margaritas that were really, really good. So just make sure you get there early if you want to check out that restaurant, which I recommend because it was extremely good food.
It was.
A great atmosphere. There was a little bit of live music for us that night.
And the trading post is right next door, and then the cantina on the opposite side. So if you get there early to get your name on the list, then you have some shopping and drinking that you can do.
For you guys, go with the drinking, with the new shopping. All right, so where do we go next from there?
We went to Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. That was pretty amazing. It's $1 per ticket, so per person, to tour the actual caverns. And it's a $15 park entrance fee. We used our America the Beautiful pass, so we got in for free, besides that $2 tour fee.
Okay, so today is Carlsbad Cavern Day. We just got the little intro. We're doing our self-guided tour. So we're going to go down the natural entrance, which is, she said...
750 feet.
Yeah, 750 feet. It's 1.25 miles long. and it takes about an hour to get through. And and there's it's about a 20% grade going down through the switchbacks. So that's where we're headed now.
Yeah, clarification, it's a 750-foot elevation difference.
Yes. So we're going to walk down to get the full experience, and then we're going to take the elevator back up. And so for Carlsbad, I apologize, guys. I don't have super whammy-like cameras like some other people do. So the caverns is obviously, it's pretty dark in there. So I had the cameras that I have, but unfortunately they just don't shoot video very well in that low light setting. Actually, maybe they do, and I just don't know how to work the settings yet. But I did get some decent pictures with the phone, is what you're seeing here. But there was really no great video to come out of that. So from Carlsbad, we went to a little town I've never heard of called Alamogordo, New Mexico. And that's where we were at the White Sands National Park.
Yes. This is a park that is made up of these white sands, which are made by gypsum. So when the gypsum is created due to the water flow and the wind rushes over it, it creates these tiny gypsum particles, which are this just gorgeous white sand.
And it's very thin and it's very dry, and you know, when you run it through your hands, it's not like beach sand that kind of sticks to everything that you own. You know, you get some on your shoes, you just kind of kick it off. You get some on your hands, you do this, and it's gone. So Candace actually went through barefoot.
Yeah, so we were a little underwhelmed at first when we got there. It was just kind of like, all right, so we're walking through this white sand. It's got some bushes growing up. And we went to the very end of the park. It loops around, and there's this trail called the Alkali Flats Trail. The whole thing is 5 miles. We decided not to do the whole thing, but we did decide, all right, let's go ahead and do a little bit of it. So I took off my shoes to hike up this really kind of steep hill where I almost felt like I was going backwards because I just kept sinking down. But it was amazing. My feet got this really nice
exfoliation.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Nicely exfoliated.
Yeah. So when we got back to the back part of the park, where, like she said, there's a loop back there. There's a 5 mile walk. You get back there, and it looks like the deserts that you see just in the movies, where it's just these rolling hills, rolling dunes, and it's white everywhere. If you go, make sure you take sunglasses because it was absolutely blinding without sunglasses. But it was like an actual desert out there. It was just really, really cool. All right, so those were the 3 that we've done so far. We've got 7 more to go from where we're at now. A lot of that's going to be in Utah, I think, right? So what are the rest of the parks we're going to go to? Or just name off a few.
Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef, Canyonlands, and Arches.
Yeah, and we're going to be in Utah because
the Kanab Grand Design Rally is going to be out there.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. That's going to be our first rally. Not quite sure what to expect. Well, I kind of know what to expect. It'll be cool to see. I think there's going to be some people there that we actually know.
Yes.
So that'll be kind of cool. But it'll be our first rally, and then again on to some more national parks. So that's our summer plans. We've got a lot of traveling here this summer. We've got a lot of national parks, and we're just going to keep pumping out those videos so that those of you who can't be there with us can kind of live
through us.
So that's what we got going on. All right, let's get into these RV must-haves. Like I said before, this is going to be the first of 3 parts, and we're going to be talking about the electrical stuff. So all of the stuff that you need in the electrical world so that you can get out there and get camping. All right guys, we just got pulled in, unhooked the truck, and the first thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna hook up electric because what we wanna do, we're filming some stuff here, we're gonna hook up some electric here so that we can get some AC running inside and get our pets in. And then we're gonna take a break and then we're gonna come out here and we're gonna do some freshwater and septic. So we're looking in this piece just at what you absolutely must have the first time you take your RV out, or even if you're just gonna stay in your own driveway for a weekend to kind of test things out. These are gonna be the minimum things that you need to have. All right, so let's just start off with, you're obviously gonna need a shore power cable. Okay, so I've got a 25-foot cable here, right? This is a 50 amp cable because I have a 50 amp rig. These are pretty heavy duty cables. I don't know what the weight of this is, but they're pretty substantial. Again, they've got to be able to handle 50 amps per line, so that's why they're so heavy duty. To go along with that, you're gonna either need an extension for your normal cable, or you're just gonna have to buy a 50-foot cord so that you don't need an extension. I personally don't like handling a 50-foot cord every single time I pull in because, like I just said, they're big and they're bulky and they weigh a ton. So trying to coil those up and everything and get them stowed is kind of a pain in the neck. So what I normally do in most sites is I just get my 25-foot cable out and I hook it up and everything's fine. And then I just leave this on my reel inside of my pass-through, and then if I need it, then I pull it out, hook them together, and I get connected. Now this piece here, and you may have seen this in a previous video of ours where Candace was hooking up some shore power and doing some tests. So this is a surge protector here. I personally use the Power Watchdog made by Hughes, but they make smaller ones, they make cheaper ones that you can buy. But basically what these surge protectors are gonna do is just like it sounds. It's gonna protect you in a surge of power. So, a lightning strike, or if the utility has issues, this right here is gonna be what catches that surge and turns off power to your RV so that all of the stuff in your RV, your laptops, your microwave, all of that good stuff, the electronics won't get fried if this catches the surge before it gets to your RV. So the next two items that I'm gonna talk about here, these are, what I have here is a 50 amp to a 30 amp adapter. So if I pull into an RV park where they don't have any 50 amp sites, then I can use my 50 amp to 30 amp adapter to go ahead and plug into a 30 amp outlet and still have some power to my RV. Now I'm not going to have the normal power that I would if I was on a 50 amp site, but at least I'll be able to power up at least one air conditioner, and run everything else that I need to run. So this one is just a basic plug, and it just plugs right into the 30 amp outlet like this. And then as you can see, it's got the 50 amp connector on the backside. And then this one here is what they call a dog bone. And I'm actually using this dog bone for a completely different purpose right now. And it's gonna be part of another video later. I'm using it to connect to my EcoFlow power station, which is actually powering my RV right now. Again, that's gonna be a totally separate video. But the second type of adapter that you're gonna see out there, they call it a dog bone adapter. And then again, on either end of this dog bone adapter, you've got a 50 amp connection and a 30 amp connection. Now, I'm speaking specifically about 30 amp and 50 amps because I have a 50 amp RV. You may have a 30 amp RV, and you may run into a situation where you only are able to plug into, say, a 20 amp outlet, which is the type of outlet that you just see in your house. It's the normal 120 volt outlet that you see in your house. They make adapters for those. They make adapters for those that look like this, and they make them in the dog bone style as well. So again, I'm talking about 50 and 30, but if you have a 30 amp rig, then you're gonna be looking at 30 to 20, or maybe even 30 to 50. It's just gonna be dependent on what kind of RV you have. So for the electrical side of this, right, those are gonna be really the bare minimum that you need. You need a shore power cable, your main cable that you use, whether that's a 25-foot cable and then an add-on extension, or whether you want to go ahead and get like a 50-foot cable. But just keep in mind, if you do that, it is going to be much longer, much heavier, and much bulkier, and just harder to pull it in and out of your basement. And then to go along with that is the surge protector, right? You must have a surge protector. You've paid way too much money for what's inside of your RV. You need to protect as much of it as possible. And on the electrical side, that's what that surge protector is going to do. And then finally, we talked about the power adapters that your are going to need just in case you get into that site that doesn't have the connection that your RV requires. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to walk through real quick, connecting everything up. It's really not that hard, but I do have at least one tip here and maybe a couple as I walk through. So let's just get it, let's get this connected so that we can get our air conditioning on. So the first thing I normally do is connect the surge protector. I plug it in and then I shut the breaker just so that I have an indication that we have, a good breaker and, we're not missing a ground or we're not missing a hot leg or something like that. So I'd plug this in first, I shut the breaker, wait for it to pop on to tell me that I'm good, and then I turn it back off and hook everything else up. All right, so again, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make sure all these breakers are off, and they are. And I'm gonna plug in my surge protector, shut the 50 amp breaker. In your case, you might be doing a 30 amp breaker. Right, so I don't know if it came through on there, but I just got a little pop from this. I have no red indications here. It's not throwing me any codes. So I know that at least for now, I've got a good breaker and I've got a good outlet in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the breaker back off, and then we'll hook up our shore power cable. You just line up the prongs the way that they're supposed to go in here. Right, and for these 50 amp connections, I can't remember what the 30 amp was, it's been a while, but for these, you slide it in and then you just give it a little bit of a twist and that kind of locks it into place. Now, a good tip here is this ring that secures your shore power cable onto your RV. Number one, when you're twisting this on here, you want to make sure that it's not cross-threaded, because if you cross-thread it and you tighten it down, it's going to crack this ring. Okay, and the reason that this ring is important is because, like I said before, these shore power cables are heavy. So when I let go of this, that weight, right, gets placed on this plug. This ring, on the other hand, is what supports that weight so that it's not the actual prongs inside or that connection, that electrical connection that's supporting the weight of this cable. You want this ring to support that weight. So now we're just gonna take the other side of our cable and we're gonna plug it into that 50 amp connection. I always like to route as much of this as I can under the rig in the shade, just to keep the heat down a little bit. All right, so now I'm simply just gonna reset the breaker. I already know everything's good. So when I shut this, I should hear that pop again. Takes a couple of seconds. There it goes, it pops. And now I've got available power in the rig. And now for a little piece that we're calling...
What's that smell?
We met a really great couple last fall who had a catchphrase about RV living that was something like, what's that noise, what's that smell, and where is that water coming from? Well, we've got a stanky kitchen right now, and so I'm asking myself,
what's that smell?
I've had this problem in the past, and what it turned out to be was our drains underneath of the kitchen sink were just packed with some nasty, grimy, slimy stuff, and it smelled terrible. Now, this is a pretty easy fix, at least it is in my case. All that plumbing comes apart pretty easily underneath of there, so I figured I'd just share with you guys what I found in there. Be prepared, this could be pretty gross. I'm just glad that you can't smell it. All right, guys, so what I've done here so far is I've just taken off this one door just to get a little bit easier access. Up underneath of here, we've got just some quick disconnect fittings on all of the plumbing pieces, but I've got to take out, there's a little false wall in here that I've got to take out first. So I'm going to start with that, and then we'll take all this plumbing apart and we'll see what kind of nastiness is in there. I've already snuck a peek in there. It's gross. Okay, it's foul. It's gross in there, guys. So I know that's where the smell's coming from. So we're going to take all those pieces out that I just pulled out, and we're going to take them outside and clean them out. I'm not cleaning that out in here. But also don't forget these pieces in here that are just, the vertical pieces. Make sure you go ahead and clean those out as well before you put everything back together.
I was trying so hard not to make comments. Laughing at doing that.
Oh my God, it's so gross. All right, look at that, guys. That's like a ½ an inch of buildup inside of there. You can see all of that nastiness. It is absolutely disgusting. All right, all that's left is I just got to put this back together. It's kind of like a little puzzle. All right, so I'm just going to put these together real loosely just to make sure everything, goes back the way that it was, and then I'll go through and tighten everything up. All right, looks like everything went back together pretty well. So now all I'm going to do is just tighten down all of these compression fittings so that we don't have any leaks. All right, guys, so it looks like everything's back together just like it should be. I don't have any leaks under here, and we should be good to go. No more stanky kitchen. Let us know in the comments what you thought about the video. It was kind of gross in some parts, I know, but let us know what you think. If you liked it, if you got something from it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button to let us know that you guys enjoy what we're putting out.